My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
No, it appears Tim is not there, but we've got no WhatsApps from him, and he's still actually active on Zoom.
He's lurking in the background on Zoom.
Yeah. Dead, maybe?
Blame Stellenbosch Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so I haven't really bothered to really read this story with much more effort than it deserves. But effectively, there's something now called the attention gap? Or the awareness gap. So we've had the gender pay gap, we've had all these other... Well, we've got a new gap now, it's the awareness gap. And to plug the awareness gap, the English ladies team are doing what exactly? They are wearing a report. So they've got a range of clothing to wear a report. It's their first ever wearable report. I mean, this does strike me... it does strike me a little bit like the sort of insane category of family is like bigotry of low expectations. What can we do to, improve women's sport? We'll make them some dresses. We'll make them some clothes, shall we?
I do like. I just saw the headline in one of our EggChasers WhatsApp groups that said Saracens never got to made to wear the Dyson report as a punishment after their salary cap breaches.
Oh my god.
Oh dear.
So yeah, just more brilliance from our leaders in the RFU.
Well,
and the most investable sports opportunity in history, of course. So
Oh, Tim.
Hello.
Oh, you're back.
Hello, I'm back. Connected. Yes.
Fantastic. Sorry, we've just been talking for 2 minutes about women's rugby, so we'll move on from that point.
Was it the alcohol? Was it the alcohol dependency, Tim? Did you need to get a glass of wine?
Yeah, I just had to level myself again. I'm back.
Oh, thank God.
Getting the shakes.
What wines have you been drinking in Stellenbosch, actually? What grapes have been good this year?
They're all pretty good. Chardonnays and...
Chenin Blancs around that region.
Yeah.
They like a Pinotage in South Africa.
Apparently, it's just hammered it with rain. Apparently, so they're not as confident about the ones that are just going in the ground now.
Oh, really?
Or not in the ground because the ones that will just be coming through this year. Too wet.
Oh.
Is that a thing? Is it?
That's unusual for because when I was in Cape Town, it was don't shower for more than 2 minutes. Share a shower, like massive water shortage. So it's a good thing overall, but maybe a bad thing if you want to be.
Do you know what
the wines?
Is it buddy showers are in the Royal Navy? Is it buddy showers? Is it?
Is this like Starship Troopers?
Not exactly. What the hell is it called? I was told this by my friend who was in the Marines. So what you do, right, is obviously on ship, water is of. It's of in scarce supply.
Water everywhere, but not a drop to shower in.
Exactly. So you shower, right?
Yeah.
You get wet. You get out the shower and put on your soap. I get in, get wet. I get out, put on my soap. You get in, rinse, get out, dry. I get in, boom. Then we're on the beers.
So I get out and put on my soap.
No, you get out and put on my soap because we're friends, right?
Buddies.
Yeah. So
right after that little interlude into women's sport, Tim, have you read or seen the announcement of the men's professional game partnership?
I was aware that something was forthcoming, but no.
Do you want to do that or concussions first?
Either. I don't really mind. Should we end with concussions?
Yeah, if you want.
Let's go. Yeah, link from RFU to this, because this is RFU and Premiership Rugby and the RPA and all of the clubs have agreed the new PGP, and they've changed it. I think it was PGA, Professional Game Agreement. Now it's PGP, Professional Game Partnership. And this overall gives more control to, well, Steve Borthwick at present. It gives more money to the RFU, and it gives some more money to the players as well.
Now we're talking.
So let me read through some of the headlines from it, and we'll touch on some of the others that have been announced alongside it. So one of the points of this is World League, and these are bullet points from the Premiership Rugby announcement from it. World leading English team. So this is set to create, or intended to create, and this is a quote, world leading English teams and thriving professional leagues delivered through fully optimised performance system in partnership with the players.
Is it sustainable?
It doesn't mention that.
Brilliant.
Doesn't mention that. So a view to make stronger teams. And this for me is, I know I don't want to get into the debate. I know we frequently have the debate of letting players go to France or anywhere, follow the money kind of thing. The reason why, as an England fan, and as a fan of the Premiership, I'm less keen for that to happen, is because I think the better the English teams get and the more they are competing overall in the later stages of Europe, the better that is for English rugby. Because instead of getting one Jack Willis or one Sam Simmons experience in Toulouse or Montpellier or Jack Noel in La Rochelle, you get 15 players in Exeter or Saracens or Leicester or Wasps back in the day competing at the highest level.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'll give credit to the RFU. I think the selection of Steve Borthwick was a great appointment because he did it the hard way, which is to prove himself within Premiership Rugby, in League Rugby, which is truly the hardest thing to coach, because believe you me, coaching international is not that hard. So having stronger teams going deeper into the European competition, I think, is essential, because it's a great barometer of how good these teams really are. And as important as it is for the players, I think it's also vitally important for the coaches, because the next coach after Steve Borthwick should hopefully come from a successful European English club.
Agreed.
Or a club that's successful in Europe, I should say.
Yeah, Premiership and Europe, ideally. Okay, big change. Enhanced England Playing Squad, EPS. The England head coach will now be able to select up to 25 players into the enhanced EPS, ensuring optimum preparation, blah, blah, blah. And will have the final say on all sports science and medical matters relating to the management of the enhanced EPS players.
Genuinely no idea what that means.
Now, Baxter has come out and said he has concerns with this in principle, but is happy with the way because he's spoken to Steve Borthwick and is happy with the way that Borthwick is going to administer it. So what it means is England get the say on whether players through either injury or fatigue should be playing for their club.
So
it
that's
gives
what it means.
England more control. Baxter, who we all have huge regard for, and basically, if Baxter speaks, we listen.
Yeah.
So he said, on paper, concerns the way that Borthwick. This is me summarising a few things I've seen. Borthwick, he's happy with the way that Borthwick is going to operate that.
Okay.
What this also means is that Borthwick can select up to 25 players who will get 160 grand per season, so supplemental salary. Now that's, I don't think they get, if they get 160 grand per season, I don't think they get their full 20 or 25k, whatever it's gone back up to, match fee. I assume they'll get a reduced match fee, but they'll get a guaranteed 160 grand per year.
Yes.
So this is like centrally contracting or part contracting players.
So there must be a match fee on top of this.
There must be, because if you played, England generally play about 12 games per year. If you played 12 games, that's 300k at the 25 grand per game.
Yeah, okay. But what I don't like about this is...
That's £4 million.
Yeah, it's only 24 players, though.
25, yeah, up to 25.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
I'm just saying it's £4 million.
Yeah.
Quite a chunk of change, that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the salary cap. It's 10% of the Premiership salary cap, almost.
Yeah, it's...
total over the 10 teams.
Yeah.
Running the England team itself is relatively cheap. Like, you only need a handful of players. I don't know the mechanics of how this works, and I'll have to talk to someone about it, but... Presumably, there'll be stages in the season where, say, that £160,000, it might be split into 3 or some such thing. So you can take people in, out of the squad. So if you've got a hooker who's no longer performing or is injured, presumably he's not going to stay in the squad and carry on getting the 160k. He'll have to come out of that squad and another hooker can go into it.
But we know from previous squads. Sorry, I agree with you. We know from previous squads whether they had an EPS of 35 as a baseline, they could only make 5 or 6 changes per year to that, which was we spoke about it before. It's very silly because it limits limits your overall turnover of the squad, and if you've got a few people who either through injury or form or both are not performing, then you want to get rid of those, and it just restricts your ability to do so.
Yeah, so there's a few things I don't like about this way forward. So I don't like the idea that the national team is set in stone on day one.
Well, we need to know what the periods are, and it's not in the official announcement. It might have been released somewhere else, but if that is, you're in for this season and you've got a locked in 160 grand for 25 people, although I actually think that Borthwick will not bring all 25 in. I think he's going to do, say, 15 or 18 and then see and be able to use it as an incentive to incentivise players to perform better, both for England and their club.
Yeah.
That's how I'd use it anyway.
Well, I mean, the way I'm sort of hearing this is you've got 24 players, they are in. You must have some mechanism for change. I know the mechanism for change now is limited. But I just hate the idea that, okay, we don't
actually know if it's limited. It historically was.
No, historically it has.
Yeah, we don't know if it is now.
Yeah, so I would just like to see the English team be a compilation of the best players in England at that snapshot of time. Now, I appreciate teams aren't quite like that. You need to build combinations and
cohesion.
But on the other hand, the very start of this document said to build stronger teams, and I assume it meant a stronger England team, and I also assume it meant stronger Premiership teams.
Yes.
Now, if everybody in the Premiership at any given time is like, oh my God, I played great this year, will I get into the England team? That is a hell of an incentive to hang around.
And that's why I would not... He's got 25 slots, and it does say up to 25 players for this 160k per year. I would have 15 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. There's 23 in a match day. 23 in a match day squad. There'll be 33 or 36 in a Six Nations squad. So just by default, it's not every player in an England squad. It's not necessarily every player that plays for England. So it will be done more strategically than that. But one thing it does do is make suddenly having England internationals much more viable and useful as a Premiership club in a way that it used to be the absolute inverse of that.
But from a player's point of view, it's also very much the haves and have-nots. So that England money is going to make an enormous amount of difference to a player. I hope that there's a lot more movement in that squad than this suggests, because without that movement,
it doesn't suggest anything, because it doesn't say how it's working. Well, so let's wait and see how it's working.
To me, it does, and the reason it does is because if Steve Borthwick wants control over things like their medical returns, well, there's no point in having that for 2 weeks. That strikes me as you're having long-term control over a set amount of players, unless I don't see why. Yeah, it sounds like they want long-term control over a handful of players.
I think it'll be kind of minimum 6 months. I would be surprised.
Yeah, I'd say so. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. But that seems reasonable. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a point in having it at all.
No, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you've got that sort of long-term team, and as I say it, the potential for lack of interchanges in that national team. That isn't the incentive to stay in the Premiership, and
it's not saying they have to be. It's not saying there's no interchanges.
It's not, but to me, it sounds like they're going to have a core group of players. If you're in that core group, they're going to want to manage you. So they're not going to want to change that core group. That's how I read it.
We have to see how this plays out.
We have to see, and also Borthwick doesn't seem like a guy that will cut off his nose to spite his face in that sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think anyone wants to cut off their nose to spite their face. I mean, this sounds very Lancaster-esque, doesn't it? When Lancaster basically picked players over and over again, not because they were the best, but because he wanted to accumulate the caps, right? And it's that sort of thing. When you've got that rigidity in the team, it doesn't act as the incentive to stay in England that it should do.
Well, it depends how many he picks, because if it was me, and I think Steve Borthwick will pick fewer than 25, but he might only pick 10, and then there's very little rigidity.
It is true.
Consistency across 10, and there's massive incentive because
but then
everyone's got
imagine the scenario, right, where Steve Borthwick does pick 10, and it comes around Six Nations, and the best team he wants, he's got a handful of injuries in a key position. Won't his employer turn around to him, or the press turn around to him and say, hey, you had 24 spaces here. You left 14 available. You could have managed a handful of tighter props and you decided not to. Why is that, Steve? So I think he'll use all of his spaces, because why would you not maximise your power?
No, I really don't think he
particularly
will.
in key areas. Well, why would you not do it? Because for the flexibility.
Flexibility and incentive. And this explicitly gives the control over those players, but by having that facility, he'll be talking to the clubs more anyway. So he will be able to kind of indirectly manage more players anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'd say that the players want to play for England. So I personally on the having their own conditioning, I don't think it'll be used as widely as you think, because I don't see. But well, I don't know why you would bother, because the players want to play for England. And if I said to, I'm trying to think of an example here. If I'd said to Zach Mercer, Zach, I just need another 5 kgs on you, then that will be what Zach Mercer goes and does. The money that the Premiership clubs are getting as a consequence should be enough to have a little bit of a collaborative partnership. But the clubs are the ones that deal with them every day. I don't know why the conditioning, it shouldn't be sort of collaboratively done with England, but executed by the clubs.
Just on that as well, Tim, does it maybe the idea is not so much we want him conditioned this way, but we want to stop conditioning him because he's wrecked and don't play him this week. It says rest and injury.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
And also, like, it does leave you asking other questions. Say if you've got a strength and conditioner for England who believes in one thing, and then they're phoning up Northampton going, hey, what are you boys up to this week? Oh, we're putting 5 kilograms on everyone. Everyone? Why? Like, people do have different approaches to this sort of thing.
They do. And did I see, I'm just looking for the headline now, did I see that the Gloucester fitness coach has gone to England?
Maybe, and he's done a lot of strength work with those boys. A lot.
But not enough, because they were third bottom last year.
They were absolutely dreadful.
They are, yeah, they were, but they are lifting a lot in the gym, let me tell you.
Okay.
Let me tell you
Great.
that. Yeah. It's been great, it's amazing.
Right, next point. So the next point is performance pathway. So they're going to have an expanded under-20 squad, up to 50 players.
Right.
Don't know, but getting more people in, understanding the system, but get that Borthwick look at more players. But also, the other point on this is there's going to be 4 England A matches per season.
Great. I mean, actually, I do quite enjoy England, though.
No, that's good. I think that's good.
I think that is a good thing. As long as you... the last England A game was a bit of a last-minute thing against Portugal, and against a Portugal without any of their players. So it was like a Portugal B team, which Portugal A team is decent.
Is there anything in this PGP about Championship?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Oh, good. Please tell me what that is, because I was just thinking, that's really good, and I'm glad to see England A back. Although I'm going to call them Saxons because they're England Saxons.
They are England Saxons, yes.
And the fact they got rid of that name for appeasing ridiculous people online who take offence to anything was symptomatic of how bad the RFU have been. But I don't really. It's not going to make any difference 4 games a year. What will make a difference is is there a place for young players coming out of the academy to actually play meaningful rugby? Phil, tell me about the championship.
So, a couple of changes. One's actually not a change, but it will continue, but we've not really seen it. The 2-match home and away playoff between the bottom place Guinness Premiership and the winner of the championship, provided that they meet the reduced minimum standards criteria.
Oh,
great.
So,
it's my language.
Reduced minimum standards criteria are, because previously the sticking point for Ealing
10,000,
was 10,000. So clubs may move from 5,000 in their first season to 7.5, and finally 10,001. The report at the start of their fourth.
It's going to be awesome when there's like a single plastic chair somewhere.
Yeah.
What's that for? It's the one.
The one. Do you count the Simbin chair as one of the...
Yeah, get some more chairs in. Borrow some chairs from next door.
So they can do that across 4 seasons in the Premiership. So they only need to have a plan in place to allow them to be able to do that for 4 seasons.
Do you think the Premiership count these chairs? Like generally, if you had an 80,000 seat stadium, do you think just eyeballing it, you'd be able to say, yeah, that's 8,000 seats? I just put 8,000 seats and see if anyone noticed.
Just put mirrors at the back of the stand.
Yeah, exactly right.
So that has it makes the movement arguably a little bit easier. And did I see that Ealing beat Bath? I know it's a pre-season friendly. Ealing beat Bath this week.
Did they?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And the other bit on this, it's just a recognition that championships clubs, apart from Cambridge and someone else, is it Cambridge and Chinner, have been invited to play in Premiership Rugby Club, and this has been extended for the next season. So I think that's overall, if you can get all of them playing, that's quite good.
Anything about money?
No.
No, they don't get any cash. They've been hemorrhaged of all their money. The Premiership and RFU will not give them a penny more, meaning it's still a cartel and it's still ring fenced by another name.
Well, kind of. I mean, all they need now is a rich owner, because that's all that the Premiership clubs have. So get a rich owner and you're in. So in a way, it's great.
And that's great for the future rugby, isn't it? That's how you build sustainable, long-term visions.
It's absolutely sustainable, right? So, most of these sports clubs are propped up. Most of France is propped up by rich owners, like the rich presidents. The way they should do this, right, is they should make rugby as attractive as possible for rich people to invest their money. And I say that. I'm not joking.
But that would be a legitimate strategy.
Yeah, they should sit down, right? They should get top people from the city or wealth management or something. Say, what do rich people really value? Like, what is the thing? How do we make it nice for them? And then take a little franchise roadshow around all of these family offices and try and find someone who just wants to do something with their money and make rugby the most attractive proposition for millionaires, billionaires, money launderers, weapons dealers, whoever it is that wants to own one. Let them own it. Well, maybe not the last 2 categories, but wealthy individuals. That's what you do. You make it as enticing as possible.
Just on the France thing, they are the most. Whilst yes, rich owners are a big part of it, they are one of the most fiscally stringent leagues in the world.
And they've got a regulator and
debt.
no debts.
Irregular. You cannot carry any debt, otherwise you get immediately relegated.
But who do you think pays the debts, Tim?
Yeah, I know, but I understand. They level it every single year. But the point is, you can't have a Wasps or a London Irish
or a Worcester.
Yeah, and many clubs before that as well. So the regulation, the governance, Mark Evans will talk to you about governance all day long. But I think I would go, first and foremost, I would make the most attractive proposition for ownership of rich people. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So the other side of this is funding to the Premiership clubs, which is worth £33 million a season. So a massive amount of funding. $3 million.
More money for fewer clubs. Nice, well done.
Yeah.
Cheers, RFU.
More money to the Premiership clubs. Nothing announced for the Championship clubs other than what we touched on before.
33
well done.
million.
Well done. Good job, guys. Well done.
Which for the first 4 years, because this is an 8-year partnership, the first 4 years will be that £33 million. And then there is a profit sharing model linked to a phrase that we used last summer, I think it was, or maybe last autumn actually, because it was the end of June the accounts were finalised. It was the period, and then maybe November, December when they came out. The phrase is the profit before rugby investment, which, if you remember,
yes.
If you remember that from the last couple of years, the reports and accounts, England, the RFU makes about £100 million a year before the rugby investment, and rugby investment is lots of different things, but there's a substantial amount in the men's game, there's a substantial amount in the community game, there is a substantial amount in the women's game. All designed to grow the game, blah, blah, blah. But importantly, the funding for the Premiership clubs and the players, the people putting their body on the line for the men's team, is linked to the pre-investment profit, which is something that we...
Pre-investment profit?
Yes.
Hang on.
The profit before rugby investment.
Wait.
So last year, England made, prior to investing so much into rugby, they made about £100 million of profit. After investing everything into the game to allow the game to happen,
investing. Players and clubs. So if I can sort of summarise this deal, Premiership clubs and England players get loads more cash, and the grassroots will get less money, and the Championship get no more money.
All right, I have to push back on this a little bit, Tim. I don't think grassroots clubs should get very, very much money, if anything. I just don't.
I don't mean not grassroots clubs, but a 4G pitch, for example. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. There are strategic investments you could make. It could be community coaches. They've got rid of them all. There is, but basically, what I'm saying is that pot of money from which things like community coaches and infrastructure, outreach into schools, that pool of money from which that comes from is going to be even smaller because a chunk of it is going to go to Premiership clubs and players.
Yeah, so I think there's a load of ways to look at this. So first of all, I'd say that I was trying to get my head around the pre-rugby investment, because really the pre-rugby investment, I mean, if you're spending... I mean, that is basically spending money on...
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's rebudgeted. So that they would make £100 million profit if they didn't spend all this money. And that money tangentially goes towards making that £100 million profit.
Yeah, look, the RFU is nothing, right? And I mean, literally nothing, except for the England men's team. It has nothing else to offer. You open up Twickenham and you get a bunch of men...
I'm going to push back on you, because you are. That's arguably what it should be, but that isn't what it is. So to say that that's what the RFU is completely wrong, because maybe you could make an argument that's what it should be.
Well, I'll just finish off, and I just want to see if you still hold that opinion. So, if Twickenham doesn't open its doors, there's no money for anything. Right, and the only reason people are flooding through the door to spend the money they do spend is for the England men's team. That is why, right? And so that England men's team needs to be preserved. They need to be paid, and if they're going to draw them from the Premiership, and they don't want the Premiership to fall over, they need to pay the Premiership. I mean, that is it, right? So, I mean,
no, they don't. No, they don't need to pay the Premiership. Like again, the Premiership should be okay. Why should the Premiership be... What you're basically saying is it should be propped up. It should be the bad management and the poor business decisions and the lack of community outreach and the inability to get a local support base, the willingness to overpay players should be subsidised by the RFU because reasons.
Well, when you say subsidised,
if those Premiership clubs go bust, those England players will find somewhere to play, and they'll still play for England.
Well, not if they go to France, they won't, because of the rules. Right? Not if they go to Japan, not if they go to Australia.
But the rules would have to change at that point.
They would have to change, and they should change
rules would have
anyway.
to change at that
look,
point.
I'm not saying it's not in defence. It's just a statement of fact that the whole RFU relies on those clubs producing those players and letting the RFU have those players. Those players are contracted to the club, right? They are the club's property. They're not the RFUs. They are the clubs. So, the way that this unholy alliance between the two is sort of set up now is the RFU pays the clubs supply the players, and then they open up Twickenham and they make an absolute shed load of money. And it's only Twickenham that makes money, right? That's kind of it. So that's why it has to be done. And then there's other forces too, isn't there? Like the financial forces coming from France, which means that you need to pay the players more because the French club game is becoming an absolute giant. It's going to distort everything. This isn't the end of England's problems. This isn't the end of England paying players. This is just the beginning of it, because the amount of money they're going to need to power the England team in the future, as those economic forces grow from France and Japan, and the UK potentially as a country gets poorer anyway, is going to grow and grow and grow. So
I guess this is my concern and my point, actually, JB, is that the RFU always talk about all sustainability when it comes to green and environmental stuff, but they're not. They don't seem to be remotely interested in sustainability for the financial fiscal.
You seem to be confused. You seem to be confusing what the RFU say compared to what the RFU care about.
Well, yeah.
So that's why this money has to go to the clubs and it has to go to the players, because without those clubs and without those players, the RFU literally has nothing. It cannot spend its own money because it doesn't generate its own money outside of the odd.
Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Concert at Twickenham. Where does it? And a few England shirts which they sell. What is the income for Twickenham? Sponsorship, but what's the sponsorship reliant on? England men's team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay.
No, I agree. I agree.
So
I understand it. I just if you had a blank bit of paper and said solve the problems, I'm not. I don't think you'd do it like this. But I get that this might
be in charge of the amateur game, and I'd probably give the England team to the Premiership. So,
quite exactly that.
Something like that. The women can have their own union somewhere else, and that would be that. As for the Championship, in a way, I think they're lucky not to be tied into the CVC deal, which is an absolute blessing. If you're going to put your money somewhere, I would say the Championship is probably preferable to the Premiership, because the Premiership has got all sorts of sort of regulations and ties to the RFU of things that they want to deliver. And if you think about the impact the RFU have had on, say, the grassroots game, one of the biggest effects that they've had is ploughing money into it and then taking it away, which is one of the most damaging things you can do. You're better off never giving the money in the first place. And everything else the RFU you do, from what I can see, is just the production of awareness posters, bullying awareness, referee abuse awareness, basically just pushing propaganda which tells you how terrible your club is. Other than that, I mean, what does it really provide? Some coaching courses, but I'd rather get my coaching and my experience from people that I know in the local area, who I know have done good things in rugby, develop it organically, locally. I think that Lancashire should have its own brand of playing. Yorkshire should have its own brand of playing. I think there needs to be a lot more local organisation. Of course, that's all going to be trashed if you have all these swathes of money coming from a central funder who wants something for their money, which, by the way, is our money to start with. Or should I say the professional games money to start with.
So
interesting.
So on that point, the second 4 years of money going to the players and the Premiership clubs linked to rugby, the profit before rugby investment. The reason why that kind of struck a chord with me and I brought it up is because it's pretty much exactly what we said last year. Like we almost I remember this conversation where we kind of game planned because we knew the PGP or PGA as it was being referred to then was being renegotiated, and the RFU could simply say, "Oh, well, we've got no money. We lost money last year." We say, "Well, what we specifically said was no. You made 100 million, and then you frittered it away. Some of it is valuable stuff."
Paying England players.
Paying England players.
That is
supporting the Premiership, because that is where the England players come from. Mm-hmm. Grassroots stuff is generally, I think, very important, although we'd probably disagree on the magnitude of the spending on that. Mm-hmm. But there is other things that probably don't add...
Awareness campaigns.
Much of the women's game, or some of the investment in the women's game, that it doesn't... What's the phrase they use on acquired? Does it make your beer taste better? Do only the things that make your beer taste better. What is your primary funding model? Is it selling beer? Is it selling England men's tickets? Is it selling England shirts? Whatever makes your beer taste better, spend your money, do the thing, set up the processes that do that.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? That's a really fair point. And actually, oddly, that's why I feel passionately about the championship, because having mentioned all those young players, I would just sack off the money for the academies.
Oh, bin them. Throw them in the bin.
Bin the academies, bin them off completely, and make sure there's a good, whether it's ring-fenced or not, make sure there's a good league structure outside and get players playing games.
Dude, just on binning the academies.
Hot housing all these lads in the academy.
Yeah.
Not playing any rugby is rubbish.
Not just lads, Tim. Not just lads, coaches as well. So I think, right, this is going to be a little bit of an edgy thing to say, I guess, but there are a hell of a lot of coaches that concern themselves with an awful lot of things which are not competitive rugby, and rugby is a competitive sport. So you fill up these academies with people like, oh, well, rugby's great, but we're not here to be competitive. We're here to develop you or make good humans. No. Go back to your clubs, go back to Fylde, go back to, in our case, like Broughton Park or Oldham or Widnes. Show me how valuable you are there in the league structures. Show me how valuable you are at developing local talent, and then we can have a discussion whether you progress up the leagues. But at the moment, they just sit in the academies and they just look after the players that don't really play. And when they do play, it's usually like meaningless rugby. And I was with a guy this weekend, right? And he was just describing the process of how basically rugby destroyed him, and he doesn't really like talking about it because you become a pro, you've got the badge on your chest, but you never played a single second. And by the time you're released back into the general pop, I was with there was about 4 lads I was with, or 5 lads who'd all played the Scarlets or Leeds or Newcastle. I can't remember where the other one played, and none of them play now. And they're like late 20s, early mid to late 20s. None of them play because it's like it just destroys you.
Yeah.
You want to play for Sale Sharks. You've had a taste of it. You had a taste of the money. All of a sudden, you've been kicked out. You're like, Christ, I don't. Why? Well, I say Sale Sharks. It could be anyone. Yeah. Get rid of the academies altogether.
Or I would. I don't really mind if you keep the academies or not, but more rugby at that age. Yeah. Like I remember a long time ago when I was that kind of age and seeing guys who would go into the academies and then not play a game for 5 years. They play a couple of A-League games on a Monday night.
They're in the gym. They look fantastic.
Years. Yeah. Amazing in the gym, but not good rugby players after it.
Yeah. Incredible. It's absolutely incredible. They should be They should be playing in all the regional teams. The amount of talent that you could release. And so I met this guy once, and he was responsible for, what was he doing? Was he a reporter or something? Yeah, he was a reporter of some description. And yeah, he was going through an interview he had with a Dutch coach that was in charge of the Belgium youth team when they were producing all that talent.
De Bruyne and Lukaku.
Maybe like a few years earlier.
Okay.
But Vincent Kompany, etc.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And they were saying things like, if you just have good players and you put bad players with good players, the bad players tend to develop technical abilities to match the natural ability of the really great players. So the more great players, I mean, same with schools, right? So if you have classes with bright kids, it tends to lift the rest of the kids.
Well, and conversely, if you're a very good player only playing against the bad players, you're going to be brought down. See also New Zealand playing against Australia all the time.
So let's bin the academies. Great, it's it's the best idea that we've ever had. Go on.
And on that note, the academy, the boundaries have been redrawn. I think it's minor changes. Other than that, the RFU are going to continue running the Yorkshire Academy, and every academy is linked to at least 2 rugby playing schools as well.
2 rugby playing private schools?
Private schools.
Of course.
Well, I assume they're private schools.
I assume they're private schools. I'd be amazed if they weren't.
Actually, it does say clubs will partner with a minimum of 2 state schools each. So that's
good. Okay.
That's interesting. And presumably as well, they will be getting most of their players from the private schools, though.
Maybe we'll just send the state schools like posters about what not to do.
I think they're most of the salient points. We probably missed a few, but they're most of the salient points. Overall, there's a bit of a carrot in there for the championship, but not enough. I agree with you, Tim. There needs to be more funding. Maybe not even back to the level it was, but now it's a fraction of what it was even a few years ago, which I think is to the detriment of the league ultimately, because that is the next best step up. If you're not quite ready for Premiership, you can get a lot of your games under your belt in the Championship and even below and still learn a huge amount. And it'll be interesting to see how... I'm really interested to see how the academy contracts and the control that Borthwick has on, let's just call it player selection, because it references kind of injury, match fitness, or fatigue, that kind of stuff on the player management. But it could be another thing that we have long spoken about in Borthwick actually having a bit more control on who plays where. Let's say, maybe not this specific one, but an example like Tim Cocker, you have said that Tommy Freeman could solve England's problems at 12. Mm-hmm. If Borthwick also had the same line of thinking, it doesn't have to be that example, but a similar... Or Stewart. Yeah, Stewart be the next Geordie Barrett. One of those 2 lines of thinking...
That'd be a shock even to Stewart. No one would be more shocked than Freddie Stewart by that statement.
Then Borthwick might have a bit more control in that dimension. So overall, I think there's more positive than negative, but we've got to see how it plays out. And moving away from something that's more positive to negative. Oh, actually, no, this is more positive than negative as well. The concussion announcement this week.
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean...
What is it?
Sorry? Are you not aware of this, Tim?
No. I haven't looked at any news. Do you know, it's been absolutely blissful. I haven't got a clue what's going on in the world, and I feel so much better for it.
Well, stand by, Tim Cocker.
You'll feel good for this one. So the headline, I think it was The Guardian, the first article, Tuesday or Wednesday this week, the headline was... Concussion risks are outweighed by benefits of amateur sport. Study finds.
Brilliant.
Next subheading, surprise results.
Study counts the moon. Surprise results, there's one.
from analysis of 15,000 individuals.
Study of sandcastles in rising tides. Apparently they all disappear.
Surprise results.
Surprise.
Well, if you listen to a certain slice of... rugby Twitterati types, blogger types, then it would be a surprise. If you listen to podcasts like ours, then this will be of absolutely zero surprise.
And indeed, most people who have played amateur sport, amateur rugby,
most people who play amateur sport or amateur rugby, most people who know what the sport of rugby is, this won't be a surprise.
So I'll just read the next the next few sentences, and this again, direct quotes from the Guardian. A major new study has found that concussions in amateur sport are not linked to greater long-term risks in cognitive decline, and that playing sport may potentially have a protective effect on the brain. The surprise results published in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery and Psychiatry were based on analysing lifetime concussion histories from more than 15,000 participants aged between 50 and 90, making it the largest study of its kind. So I think we've probably said certainly the risks outweigh the benefits. Those exact words multiple times on this podcast, as most people who have played sport will also have done. So that is good news.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, great news. Now, obviously, it does go on to say that the risks in professional sport are different, which I think all of us would also agree with.
Absolutely. There's no two ways about it, right? Before I say a single thing, I want to be clear that concussion is the single greatest risk to this sport at the professional level. I think it is incredibly serious. I think people's lives have been ruined by it, and it needs to be dealt with at the professional level. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean changing the laws of the game. Doesn't mean really doing anything other than, if there's a medical advance, fine, maybe less rugby. My solution would be to pay them more. It's simple as that. But it is a real issue with real impacts. In amateur sport, it simply is not the case, because fundamentally you don't have that moral dilemma of having a lad on £300,000 having concussions, thinking, how do I maintain the standard of living, my mortgage, and pay for my family?
Yeah,
you
pay
just
for
have
my wife's Range Rover.
Exactly. You just have a guy that goes out, and if you get concussed, the thing you should do is stop. And if you don't stop, that is completely on you, because you are an adult.
And everyone now, it wasn't the same 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, but now everyone does know the risks. Like that. I think that is a good thing. Everyone knows if you get concussed, you should really stop. And if you don't, exactly as you say, that is your decision as an adult.
Yeah. So I guess the thing which has really wound me up about this is how there'll never be any accountability for the people that smeared the game in the first place. And I think it is a classic example of what we see in wider society now as well, which is if you're on the right side of certain debates, you can say anything you want, which are as offensive as you like, smear whoever you want. And, some of these accusations towards clubs and people that played and coaches and parents were pretty horrific, actually. Like, you don't just accuse someone of child abuse, which is effectively what people like Eric Anderson was doing. Alison Pollock did it explicitly. I don't know if Darren Wright? I always get his name. I don't really care what his name is, right? But the point is, these guys were allowed to run around and smear everyone. And the most upsetting part about it was how the authorities handled it. And the only way that this is able to be resolved was because we were so in the right that you can actually run the studies and you can prove and you can prove it. But really what should have happened is cowards who run the game, and they are cowards, people like Bill Sweeney and everyone else, should have come out swinging. Like, they should have said, this is completely wrong and you are out of order for saying that. I would have looked down every legal avenue possible to try and sue them. As soon as they said that, I would be looking to shut them up, sue them. If you want to have a debate about concussions, absolutely fine. But you don't go around calling, members of the rugby community child abusers and pulling out things about misogyny and all the rest of it. If you look at who these people are, they are predominantly low-grade individuals at low-grade institutions stealing a living in subjects that aren't even real. So Eric Anderson is a classic, right? He's a professor of sports, sports masculinities and sexualities. That's not a real thing. Now, I can imagine if I'm Dr. Eric Anderson, for example, right, one day twiddling my thumbs thinking, what is the impact I've made on this world? Well, I'm not going to solve cancer anytime soon. I'm not sending humanity to Mars. But do you know what? I can destroy rugby. I can definitely do that. I can definitely leave my legacy at destroying rugby. And the amount of money that has had to be spent on this, not just the overt costs of getting other academics to actually look at this, or changing the laws, or holding meetings, but the hidden costs of people saying, do you know what, maybe this game is too dangerous to play? Like the arguments, the logistics of getting everyone to fucking clubs to do training on like high tackle protocols, which have never ever been enforced anyway. And there's been absolutely no pushback at all. All the authorities just accepted it. Yeah, absolutely fine. World Rugby just accepted it. They changed their laws because of these absolute arseholes. And what they should have done is they should have fought them all the way. And the RFU Council are equally complicit here, because they had a meeting for 4 hours. They got gaslit by some knob who the RFU brought in, some doctor. I mean, why are these doctors and academics not having their titles stripped? Because anyone with any sense could see amateur sport has added so much to people's lives, and there are risks, but those risks are acceptable. So why do we have these doctors?
And if they're not acceptable, you as an individual can stop playing.
Exactly. Darren White, I don't care if his name is wrong, Dr. White, right, came on the Rugby Dungeon podcast. We had a reasonable discussion, and he came out with the nonsense. Well, rugby's not special because you can do all the things in rugby and get all the benefits from doing other things like rowing or running on the spot or press-ups, which is of course entirely true, but it doesn't teach you all of the intangibles.
It's not. I don't even think it's true, because the phrase that Tim says, the risk is the reward.
Yeah,
which I like that phrase.
I'm not going to claim that Eddie Stevens came up with that.
Yeah, but you, both of you, Eddie and you, use that, and it is a great phrase because it describes what rugby players do, what's special about rugby.
Amen.
Yeah, just remember what these guys did, right? Like they were wandering around concussion symposiums where people are actually trying to make real change, holding up their placards, pretending World Rugby was like the tobacco companies, so they made up their own placards as such. They were dismissive and rude to people who actually had relatives who had died of concussion, or not concussion, of the effects of concussion. Perhaps there are also people there who have had relatives die and they've inspected their brain who showed no sign of concussion. So it's a far deeper, more complex subject than they made out. This is not to downgrade what is happening in the pros, where we need a real conversation, maybe action, maybe not. It has nothing to do with the amateur game. And I think as much as these guys are charlatans and grifters, low-grade individuals at trash institutions which don't deserve anything, right? The people in charge of the game, I mean, they should be fired. They should be fired en masse. If you didn't stand up for the game in the most robust way possible, you should just be fired. But of course, they won't be.
And on that bombshell, there are no games next week, are there?
No.
I mean, there's top 14 and Pro D2. We're still a couple of weeks away from Premiership and URC, and it's a rest week in the Rugby Championship. The Pacific Nations Cup will be happening. Did you see the Sedge result this weekend?
No.
It was very similar to the Argentina-Australia score.
In their favour?
In their favour. So, hosted Isha.
Okay.
Up at Park Lane. Isha, historically a very, very good team, and beat them 65-24.
Goodness me.
With an acceleration of tries in the last 20 minutes to take it away from Isha, which is a great result.
Talk H lost our opening game. We went down 26-22 to West Park St Helens away.
Oh,
Paul Arnold's West Park St Helens.
Former Sedgley legend, former any paying club in the Northwest
legend. Former money-grabbing legend. I wasn't available for that one. I'm not available next week either, which is quite annoying, because whilst no one is playing any rugby, you and I are going sailing.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it now. Very much looking forward to going to Cornwall, to Falmouth, and I hope the weather's a bit better than it has been today. We had a couple of nice days in Manchester. Today has just been awful. It's like proper autumn now in Manchester. Which
it's only 22 and sunny in the Cape Town winter tomorrow.
I was just going to say, I imagine a little bit different from Cape Town midwinter.
Oh, just quickly on that, I went down to the Stormers camp, their training ground on Tuesday, and I bumped into Dave Ewers.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
How much does he weigh now?
I didn't weigh him.
What?
I forgot to weigh him, JB. I apologise.
Dave Ewers, most physical man in the Premiership, squad player for Stormers, yeah?
Big, strong boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was playing in the Curry Cup this week on Wednesday.
Nice. Have you watched any Curry
Friday.
Cup?
Yeah, I've caught a little bit of it.
Any good?
It's all right. It's basically just backup players now.
Oh, is it? So, what do they do? Curry Cup looking for a contract for the actual Bulls and the actual Stormers?
They fall under the same union. So John Dobson, the coach of the Stormers, also will be head coach of the Curry Cup team, Western Province Curry Cup team. So he kind of it basically works like that. So it's kind of like the B side, and it'll have a sprinkling of their top players, but mainly their young guys.
Just before we go, can I just read you this? Eric Anderson. He is the leading academic expert on gay men in sport. Does that need to be studied? I mean, it does not strike you as maybe making your love into your job. The architect of inclusive masculinity theory, brilliant, which generated from his research showing that decreased homophobia leads to the softening of heterosexual masculinities. This permits young men to kiss, cuddle, and maintain bromances with other males. It sounds like being at a rugby club.
I think I'm gonna make up. My next job is going to be studying into female 110 meter hurdlers.
Yeah, I think so. Assessing how excessively attractive female CrossFitters feel. What is this? And people funded this. Like, this is the joke, isn't it? He isn't the joke, actually. I'm starting to respect him more and more now. Because he managed to get people to pay for this.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. Why can't I come up with some sort of scam like this? I wish I just had like no scruples and I could just come up with something remarkably self-centered.
Oh dear. Right, Tim, what does your next few days look like?
Next few days, right? Tomorrow I am going to hang out with Scout Berger and Jean de Villiers and be on their box office show.
Amazing.
Ooh, excellent.
Amazing.
Which is pretty cool. I'm basically having a media couple of days. Rudy Page and Joanne de Jong. I'm going to go and see them.
Nice.
And I thought I might head west.
Sorry, Joanne de Jong. Who is he?
He played centre for South Africa, played for Wasps.
That's the one. That's right. That's what I'm thinking of,
Yeah. And Rudy Page was the scrum half, wasn't he? Little nippy scrum half.
So I'm having a kind of, loosely speaking, a bit of a media day tomorrow, which sounds like that's how I'm terming it. That's not what it is. But I thought not many people head west, and I thought I might just go up there. Apparently, it gets a bit more rugged and a bit more wild, a bit more unspoilt. And
west from Cape Town is the Atlantic Ocean, isn't it?
That is very rugged, Tim.
Yeah.
Be prepared, mate. Don't.
Maybe west, but a bit north.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I don't think many people do go northwest of Cape Town.
And I've heard there's a few gems of spots I quite like and I'm ready for just like a quiet couple of days before I come back.
Fantastic. Well, stay safe. JB, have you got anything exciting this week?
Yes, I'm assessing the top 5 hottest female CrossFit athletes in the Northwest for an academic.
I will
paper.
pay you to do that study.
Will you? Brilliant, because I think I'm going to find some really important things.
And I'm not doing much, but I will give one recommendation, which is, if you've not watched it, go spend some time watching Tour de France Unchained on Netflix.
Oh, okay. I might do that.
It is really interesting. It's fascinating seeing the inside of pretty much the toughest endurance event in sport in the world.
Do you know what I have done, actually, which is kind of interesting for us, sort of, is I've read at length about national power grids.
You have, and I've got to catch up on your little messages.
And simply
today.
put, it's some of the most interesting reading I have done in maybe a decade. It is everything about power and how the grid and how other grids work, and is fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Agreed.
So,
and I would just say, if you haven't already watched The Bear,
I've heard good things about The Bear. Is that
season
Disney?
3 is out. It's brilliant.
Is it Disney?
Is
it on Disney Plus?
I think it.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Possibly.
I'll check. Not sure. It's really good. Anyway, some people have Fire Sticks, and it's on there, but it'll be somewhere.
It is on Disney Plus.
Just before we go, Tim, how is your physical state? You managed to go running or anything?
No, not a lot. I touched rugby on the beach. I've done quite a lot of walking, but and in Johannesburg, I'll tell you one thing I loved about Cape Town. It was on the first day, and I suddenly went, "Oh my God, I'm walking." Because in Johannesburg, you have to drive everywhere.
Yeah, don't walk.
Nobody walks to anything because they don't feel safe to do so.
Oh, well. I mean, at least you'll have a head start on us in Manchester in 5 years' time. Like, you'll know what to do.
Did you walk up Table Mountain?
I took the cable car up and walked around on top. I know. It was yesterday. So it only reopened on Monday, just gone, and there was 7,000 people that bought tickets on the Monday to go up it on the day that it first opened. So and then the weather was shit, and I was off doing other things, so I couldn't do it. So I did it on Saturday morning before the test match, and so it was like
you had to be up and down.
Let's just go.
Yeah,
so,
that's how I'd want to do it. Why do you want to spend any time up there? Just go up, have a look, come back down. I mean, I don't like sightseeing at the best of times, but
I just like the walk. So it was a nice climb.
The walk
it would have been better. I would have liked to have done, because most of the walk is done on the face of the mountain that is sheltered from the wind, and the wind on Saturday was it was a howling a gale. And it was such a cold wind that I didn't want to spend any time up there. It was like, right, yeah, I've seen it. Let's go. And I would have enjoyed the walk there and then just been able to get the cable car straight down.
Hey, Tim, here's a quick question for you. Obviously, you're loving the South African life. You've got kids who are coming to a point where they're going to be independent soon. You've got nice income streams denominated in sterling. Why not live in South Africa?
Buy a house in Cape Town or Franschhoek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I bet they've got golden visas for people like you, Tim.
Well, I was going to say, I can be a digital nomad, so I'm in a competitive market here. Portugal's quite attractive. So is
Madrid.
Holland.
Milan.
Greece look after you quite well. Yeah, Italy
Dubai
looks after you well. So yeah. So
there's not many places.
Hey, I'm open to offers.
There's not many places that look after you worse than the UK as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So
yeah, true.
Interesting. Maybe Tim will be remote forever now.
Don't do it to us, Tim.
It's unreal down here, I have to say. It's
amazing.
It's amazing.
The climate as well. The climate is
as long as you maintain your income in sterling, right? And I mean this seriously. You can always come back. So you can go anywhere in the world as long as you're getting paid in sterling. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. Oh my God! Just when I think about the food I've had and then what I pay for it, it's crazy. I don't know how the hell people from South Africa come to the UK. Well, they don't, unless they've got someone they can go sleep on the couch of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a rugby club willing to pay them.
Absolutely.
Right, boys.
Right, mate. We will see you next week.
Hot work.
Yeah.
Enjoy sailing.
We will do. Cheers, Tim.
Nice one. In a bit.
Bye.
Let the pod end. Let the boys end.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
If there's one thing that my family and friends know me for, it's being an amazing gift giver. I owe it all to Celebrations Passport from 1-800-Flowers.com, my one-stop shopping site that has amazing gifts for every occasion. With Celebrations Passport, I get free shipping on thousands of amazing gifts. And the more gifts I give, the more perks and rewards I earn. To learn more and take your gift giving to the next level, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.